Hi, I'm Annika. I'm a knitter and a natural dyer, and I love to create something every day. This is the very first episode of my knitting podcast. I'm going to show you what I'm currently working on, as well as some favorite things that I've made recently. Since I mainly knit with all natural yarns, I am also going to talk more about this topic and what to consider when knitting with all natural yarns. Let's get started. First off, if you catch me looking outside the window, which is right next to me here from time to time during this episode, I'm sorry, but we are currently having a very rare snow day here in Germany, where I live, and I just absolutely love the snow. Everything looks so peaceful, and since this is such a rare occasion for us, we savor it especially. Alright, a little bit more about me. I have a company which is called Rosemary Pines Fiber Arts, which consists of an Etsy shop where I sell my naturally dyed yarns, as well as a website. On this website I write about all things natural dyeing, so I teach people how to dye yarn and fabric themselves using natural dyes. First, I wanted to mention what I'm wearing. I wear a lot of handmade items, either knitted or sewn every day, and today is no exception. This sweater is called CQ, and it is a knitting pattern by Alicia Plummer. It was published a couple of years ago, and I participated in the test knit. And what I really love about this sweater is the fact that it is completely made out of my own hand-dyed yarns. I have several bases that I offer in my shop. All of them are non-superwash and consist of wool from German sheep, because I want to support the local wool industry as well as avoid transporting over long distances. So I took all of the different bases and mixed them together and made kind of a scrappy project with it. The main color is an undyed yarn from a German sheep breed called Coburg Fox. It is a very beautiful sheep with a golden fleece. I'm going to insert a picture for you, and I just used an undyed skein for the background color. And the contrasting colors are from different yarn bases. I mixed in some of my sock yarns. The pink one is Luster Sock Decay, which has a subtle sheen to it, and the blue ones are Classic Sock Decay, which is more of a robust yarn, which makes for very cozy knitted items. And yeah, that is the sweater. Unfortunately, I made it just a little bit too small. It is a bit too short for my taste, a little bit too cropped, and the sleeves are not long enough for me. That's why I usually put them up like this. And as you might be able to tell, it kind of rides up all the time, and yeah, that's why I very rarely wear this piece, although I really like the sweater, and it is such a pity because I think it's such a wonderful example of how naturally dyed yarns play together and how they can look all mixed together in this garment. Alright, the first piece I'm currently working on is called the Flur shawl. It is actually a free pattern by Espace Tricot. I'm going to link all of the pattern infos down below in the description box, so you can look it up if you like. Let's have a look at the pattern first. As you can see, I am quite far along, but there are a couple of more rows to go. Let's see how you can best see it. I hope the camera is going to focus now, otherwise I'm going to insert a clip afterwards to show you how the shawl currently looks like. The yarn I'm knitting with is also one of my own hand-dyed yarns in a merino sport base. It was naturally dyed with cochineal, and I absolutely love this example of a naturally dyed colorway because it is so vibrant and beautiful. Natural colors also come with a lot of depth. You can see there are different shades in it of red and pink and everything between, and I just love it. I'm not sure if you will be able to tell it within the finished object, but there is quite a bit of different colorways in it, and it's not a solid color, it's more of a tonal yarn, which I really like because I think that it looks more natural. The pattern itself is also wonderful. It is a very soothing, simple knit which consists of garter rows and these little bobbles in between. I really like it, and I discovered this pattern when watching the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast from Carmen and Jackie, who are both Canadian and whom I absolutely love to watch when I knit. They also did the Flur shawl. They made a couple of versions, and they also decided to run a knit along last year, which just ended I think in December, and which I participated in because I just really like the pattern. And this is not the only version of the Flur shawl I have. I have also made one finished Flur shawl already. You can see how long it is. I'm going to put it on real quick so you can see. Can't see myself now, so I hope it looks alright. Probably not, but I'm going to see that later when I try to edit the video. Okay, so this is the Flur shawl in a crescent shaped form. It was originally written as a triangular shape, but Jackie from the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast modified it to be a crescent shape, and I totally copied her because I really like crescent shaped shawls as well. If you're wondering now why I am knitting the same shawl in the same colorway again, the reason is simple. My daughter decided that she really liked this shawl and she stole it from me. She's 9 years old, almost 10, and apparently we are now in the phase where she's taking my clothing. But I don't really mind because I had some yarn left over, and so it's totally fine for me to knit it again because it was such a meditative and fun knit anyway. If you're interested in this colorway, there's one more skein left in the Etsy shop. I'm sorry, just one won't be enough for a shawl, but you could totally make something else out of it, like a hat would be beautiful as well, I can imagine. And I also have this yarn in a beautiful dark blue colorway, which would make a stunning Flur shawl as well. Alright, next up is a pair of socks that I'm currently working on. Let me see if I can show you. So these are the socks in a very dark blue or purple. This is also one of my yarn bases, the Classic Sock Decay, which I think I mentioned before when I talked about this sweater. It is more of a rustic yarn. Let's see if I can show you again, otherwise I'm going to insert a clip. It's, in my opinion, a very beautiful yarn which makes for very cozy socks, and it was naturally dyed with logwood. Let's see. I'm making these socks for my mother-in-law, and I'm using one of my own knitting patterns called the Happiness All Around Socks. It is a simple rib pattern, which I really like for socks because I find that the fit is always very good. when the rib pulls in a little, and it also makes for a very simple and quick knit because this is a DK weight yarn. This is the first sock, so I have one more sock to go, but I'm knitting on 3mm needles, so it goes rather quickly. One more thing about the naturally dyed colorway. When it comes to natural dyeing, people are often unsure whether the colorway is going to hold up over time or if it is going to fade very quickly. You can take a couple of precautions when dyeing with natural dyes so that the color fastness is prolonged as much as possible. Inevitably, all colorways are going to fade over time, whether it be a synthetic dye or a natural dye, but I find personally that there has not really been an issue for me with the natural dyed colorways over time. I brought an example so that I can show you. So like I said, this was dyed with logwood. And this is a shawl that I've made a couple of years ago that was dyed with logwood as well. It was dyed in a lighter shade, so that's why it's lighter. And since it was a different yarn base, it has a bit of a different shade. So this is more of a gray blue, whereas this is more of a purple blue. So as you can see, I made this colorway several years ago, knit with it and wore the shawl out in the sunlight, and it has not faded. Maybe a little bit, but I think it still looks colorful and beautiful. If I think in a couple of years maybe that the colorway has faded too much, there's always the option to just over dye it. The pattern of this, it's a triangular shawl. Can you see that? I did a test knit for Making Stories a couple of years back, and I think the designer is Sunflower Knits, but I'm going to link everything in the description box for you. So that is an example of a project that has been, or a yarn that has been dyed with logwood and is a couple of years old. And I have one more example, another shawl. This is the Boho Blush, a pattern by Andrea Mowry, and I knitted this in 2018 in December, so 5 years ago, and the color has not changed at all. So this was dyed with cochineal as well as the Flur shawl, but this was dyed with a much lower concentration of cochineal. That's why it's so much lighter. So it has not faded, it's just a different recipe. Let's continue. Another project that I'm currently working on is a knit pillow. I am using some of my old stash yarn, which is Istex Lopi. It looks like this. It is a very rustic Icelandic yarn and I love it. I actually made my very first sweater out of this yarn years ago, and it still looks absolutely amazing and is very warm and nice. Alright, back to the knit pillow cover. This is it. I already completed the first part and I'm currently working on the second part. Let me show you. This is how far I've gotten. I am making the pattern up as I go, but it's actually not very difficult. I'm knitting all the stitches on the right side and do purl knit and so on the wrong side, which makes for this beautiful broken rib pattern. And once I'm done with this side, I'm going to insert a zipper and sew up the 2 pieces so that I have a knit pillow for our couch. All right, one more thing I wanted to talk about are all natural socks. I am mainly knitting with all natural sock yarn since I knit a lot with my own yarns, like I mentioned. So that means no superwash and no nylon or polyester or other synthetic content whatsoever. All natural socks have sometimes a bit of a bad rap for being not as durable as the standard 80% merino, 20% nylon sock yarn. But I want to show you how I knit my socks and how you can increase the durability of your all natural socks. Let me start off by saying that I think it is absolutely worth it to give knitting with all natural sock yarn a try. I'm going to share 2 of my recent favorite pairs of socks with you and talk a little bit more about how to increase the durability of all natural socks. So these socks are non-superwash and without any synthetic content like polyester or nylon. This is a pair of socks that I made at the beginning of last year. The yarn base is my own yarn again. It is called Merino Lino and it is a blend of German merino wool and French linen. The linen is added to increase the stability, and as a natural dyer I also really like the combination of a protein-based fiber like wool with a plant-based fiber like linen, because it makes for an interesting combination in the dye pot. Not all of the colorway is taken up in the same way by the different types of fibers, and it creates like some kind of movement that I really like. So like I said, I made these socks at the beginning of last year and I've worn them quite a bit and they have held up great. So no darning required, no holes, no nothing. Of course there is a little bit of wear, but you will get this inevitably with any sock that you're wearing. Oh well, now the snow has picked up. It's snowing quite a lot now. We'll see how this is going to turn out later on. Anyway, like I said, I really like these socks and I dyed them with a speckled technique, as you can see. We have the pink speckles that were created with cochineal and the yellow rust speckles that were created with yellow onion skins. And the colorway is called Afterglow. I think there are a couple of skeins left in the shop. Not sure if they are in Merino Lino or one of my other sock yarn bases though. The second pair that I wanted to talk about is this one. I just finished it at the end of last year and I absolutely love them. I'm not sure if you can see the beautiful halo on these socks. They are so fluffy and cozy and I love to wear them at the moment. I put them on every morning when I get up and when my feet are still cold and I'm tired, and they just make for the most comfortable, cozy pair of sock. What I did to create this fluffy pair of socks is that I used my Luster Sock Decay sock yarn in a dusty rose colorway that was dyed with avocado skins, and I combined it with from my stash, an old skein of mohair silk in an undyed white version. So this created this beautiful marled effect, and like I said, they are just the coziest thing to wear. I love them. The pattern that I used is again one of my own knitting patterns. It is called the Camaré socks and has another version of a rib. This time it is a variation of the broken rib, and I just think that all sorts of rib patterns are very nice in socks because they hug the feet and the legs so nicely. And lastly, just a little bit of dream knitting. For the longest time I have wanted to knit with unspun yarn. I have never tried it before, but since Newton yarn from Sweden has become so popular, I am very intrigued to give it a try. And since it can be a little bit hard to get your hands on Newton yarn because they usually sell out very quickly, I decided to start with this unspun yarn from Istex. So the same company that also produces the lead lopi that I showed you before in my knit pillow that I'm currently working on. And I decided to go with 2 skeins of each, or 2, I don't know, plates I think they are called, of a undyed white and an undyed gray version. What I'm planning to make is called a Saturday Shrug. It is also a free pattern by Jackie Rose. I'm going to link it for you. It looks very nice. It is just a striped shrug that you can wear a number of different ways. And again, I found out about this pattern on the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast by Carmen and Jackie. I cannot wait to give it a try, and if I like working with unspun yarn, I am for sure also going to try out Newton in the future. That's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed spending some time with me. Since the snow has picked up quite a bit now, I am going to make a fire in the wood stove and get cozy with a cup of tea. Let me know in the comments if you share my love for natural rustic yarns, and please like and subscribe if you want to see more knitting and natural dyeing content in the future. If you are interested in knitting with all natural, non-superwash, no synthetic content sock yarn, I actually wrote a free mini guide that is available for my newsletter subscribers. You can find the link in the description box below. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.